Now I'm on restreaming. Should be fine. I'm gonna text my parents when you come home. We'll be podcasting. Sorry, saw some nippies there.
Oh.
Alright, update titles. Today is the 7th. Today is the final episode. I always forget that the Google is called Sheets and not
Yeah.
Excel.
You are you gonna use a lot of Excel for work?
Oh yeah. Excel master. It was pretty crazy when I was able to, in my interview, they asked about Excel, which is funny because, like I guess they just had to ask. Um, and they, I was able to tell them, like, I've been working on Excel for like 9 years now, which is pretty crazy. Oh, damn. We had similar stuff for the Chiefs, but that's okay.
Oh yeah, I looked at yours. Yeah. I mean, there's only so much that you can do with them.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree. Which is why
Either like
which is why I
that
left
or
it.
draft somebody. Oh, he had Kelsey. Fine, darn.
All right, Cardinals. We have. Oh, we're over the time. At least we're live though. Um, Let me put up the thumbnail so Lambo doesn't get his feelings hurt now that we have two graphics guys. Look at us. We're
More
just
the
gonna keep
merrier.
yeah, I was gonna say we're just gonna keep gaining employees, not pay any of them. Hey, until we start getting paid, then they can get paid.
That's right.
That's
The American dream.
what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I think I don't know if I told you, but I was talking. I guess on New Year's I was talking to some guys, and I was like, the only thing I could think is my New Year's resolution would be, um, I want to read one ad read. That's all I want is to read
That
one ad read. I don't care what it
would be
is.
sick.
Yeah. Oh, Ethan's locked in on the Noti gang.
Love it.
All right, let me finish out the Excel sheet just so it looks all nice, and then we'll get going. I don't know what to do here. I don't know what to type out. Okay, I'll just do this straight out. Okay. We the Cardinals one I can't wait to talk about the Cardinals. I was digging into them and I was like, why
Really?
did they pop? Yeah, I was like, I guess we'll get to it. I won't explain more. I was gonna think. Um, Let me make sure that we have. Yep, we're up. The thumbnails up. Noti Gang's here.
It,
Let me post that we are officially live. And then let's get this show on the road right after. The last Card
already.
or last Wizards game before we actually start recording is that's actually anything that's worth it is the Magic. I don't know what the date
Mhm.
is, but I think there's only like that would be the last basically good game to go to if you would want to go to another game.
Sure. Yeah, just let me know when it is. Sure. I guess I
All right,
can
word.
also look it up.
No, yeah, I could do it. Yeah, we don't have to do it right now, of course. We're about to do a pod, but
Yeah.
alrighty. Chiefs are gonna be fascinating to talk about. This is a much better division lineup than last
Yeah. No,
week,
last week
right?
sucked.
I wish that shit was Garbo. All right. Um, Here we are. We're live. Say something in the
Sweet.
mic real quick. All right, you're good.
Something, something, test, test.
Yeah, I think Ethan would have said something now,
Okay, cool.
so I think we're good. Oh, you supposed to say we're live too. All right, I will delete the other one. Sweet. Look at that. Now we have with the thumbnail up when we're live, and then a little icons. Love it. Love it. Love it. All right, crack on this Dr. Pepper, and then we can get show going. You want to talk Deron Payne first? Bengals, Trey Henderson, and cutting everything. The Jags kind of cutting everyone.
Sure. You mean
I think that
Alan?
yeah, Payne, yeah, Allen,
Yeah.
not Payne. That's kind of it, right? Jags cut everyone. Bengals are going to trade everyone, or everyone wants to leave the Bengals, and then the Commanders cut Jonathan. That's about it, right?
I
Oh,
think
go through. I
so.
mean, we'll
We
get to
didn't
that
talk.
with the Chiefs. Go through me,
Yeah,
to the Bears.
and DK, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah, so we'll
The
be good on
team
that.
too.
All right. Once you sit back down, I'll get us started then.
My lighting.
Yeah, I think you look good.
Thanks.
Of course.
All right. Ready to roll.
That's funny. It's funny that Peyton must have just had before we get started, must have just had notifications on YouTube and then me Snapchatting him to text him because he just followed the Instagram. He he asked what type of graphics I'd wanted to make, and I was like, um, you listen to like to 80% of them, right? He's like 72. I was like, all right, I'll take that. Uh, why don't you just come up with what needs to be made for the
All right.
graphics? Yeah. And I was like, creative freedom. You get to do what you want.
There we go.
All right. We're starting with the AFC West. Ready to rock and roll? Let's do it.
All right.
All right, we're gonna get started in three, two, and one. Hello and welcome to the Wise Guys Podcast. I'm your host, Brady Fitzgerald, joined as always by my co-host, Chris Hagan.
How you guys doing?
Doing great, Chris. Today we are doing our final episode of the off-season preview. We have a couple things that we got to take care of first. Starting with some hometown stuff. Jonathan Allen, cut from the Commanders. Um, Chris, take the lead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it was expected. Even last season, and I feel like 2 seasons ago, there had been chatter about wanting to move on from either Payne or Allen, and this year it works out for Allen because he doesn't have any dead money. So I think he's guaranteed like 17 million or whatever, and it's the last year of his deal. So they were seeking a trade partner. Obviously, wasn't a market for him, which I didn't really expect. them to be able to trade him, and if they did, it was going to be for probably a sixth or a seventh. So it's unfortunate, but had kind of been in the works for a while. So they drafted Johnny Newton last year to kind of take that spot.
Johnny.
So the the plan has been in place. I think they tried to do it with Fedarian Mathis too, and they took him in
Yeah,
the
they
second round a
tried.
couple years ago. They cut him at this point because he's total bust. But I like John was a good player for us. Obviously, probably the best player on this team for a year or two at one point. Um, but he just turned 30. He's got a big cap hit. They weren't going to re-sign him, so hopefully he finds a better spot for himself in free agency, which I'm sure he will. There's plenty of teams that need D tackles,
It's
but it
coming
is
out of
kind of a
nowhere,
shame that
man.
because he's been the guy who like he's gone through all the crap, and now the team coming together a little bit.
It's
He's
funny, those
gone, so
those those are the type of
a little
guys,
unfortunate.
though, that have the massive cap hits where it's like, "Alright, you've been around for a while, you've been holding the anchor with our cap space. We need to let you
Yeah.
go to
Yep.
get some other players here." And, I think he was a solid player for the Commanders for a long time. A very good, as you said, a very good player for a stretch of that time. And the past year, we noticed, that when he was out there, it just seemed like he would disappear inside the D line. Um, and he does, D tackles always do little things that nobody ever talks about because the second they
Mhm.
get in there, the offensive coordinator plans around them and make sure that they're out of the game if they're really that impactful. But we just had, one too many games of Jonathan Allen just kind of disappear. Yeah, just kind of disappearing. So they were looking for a trade. Nobody wanted his cap hit. So sorry. Maybe he definitely is going to come. I don't think he'll come back. They never. It's funny. They never cut guys and like come back for cheaper. That's never how it works. Um, so
Generally not. Yeah.
yeah. So he'll find another spot. Um, he'll probably get a pretty decent payday from some team too. So I think it's a good move for everyone involved here. Um,
Yep.
and it's funny, like it's not like you guys need the cap space, but it's you don't need to be paying 22 million for him at
Exactly.
this
Yeah.
moment. Yeah.
And the thing about our cap number is they don't have that many players.
hmm
So they have all this money, but they have probably 5 or 6 starters who are on 1 year deals. And they already
Bobby's
brought back
back.
Wagner. That was 8 million, I think, guaranteed. They have to bring back Chin, Ertz, maybe Fowler. So it's that money disappears as you fill holes, which
Yeah.
like sounds obvious, but they have more holes to fill than the average team because the amount of 1 year players they had.
Yeah, and one they need what 3 more wide receivers on their team. They need probably
Yeah.
they're probably gonna get they'll probably sign a free agent running back and get another one in the draft. So they need a lot of players. Um,
Yeah.
so they need that money. Another edge rusher, or not edge rusher, but another defensive lineman, I guess. Uh, looking for a new contract, looking for a move. Is Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson from the Bengals. The Bengals they did him the due diligence to seek other offers, and I don't know what that means. Does he call other teams and be like, "Yo, you want to trade a first for me? Like, you want to like what is that? Just
I
trying to
don't
see
know.
who's interested.
I
Like, are we
never
just
have understood
like, did he
that.
call the Giants and the Giants are like, "Sorry, pal, we're not interested," or some other team? Like, does a team like, and then he go back to the Bengals and he's like, "Guys, Giants don't want me." Like, what are we doing here? Like,
There's
I don't
probably
understand
there's
it.
a whole ecosystem with like agents, I'm assuming, where they talk to the GMs and you just like put feelers out, and then if there's mutual interest, like then they put the GMs in touch. I don't know. But that's what the Commanders did with Allen too. Like they get permission to seek a trade. Like you guys are the ones who should be seeking the trade, right?
That's what I always
Why are
say.
they seeking?
Yeah. And it's funny once you give the player like it's in this case it's way different than Jonathan Allen because they were just gonna cut him right afterwards, and I don't think they're gonna cut
Yeah,
Trey Hendrickson. But it's normally they give that like they gave it to Russell Wilson. He was allowed to like seek trade. It's like I
yeah.
like they're giving it to these players that like don't really gauge that much interest. But this seems like he'll get a lot of interest.
Alan Lazard got
Yep.
the ability to seek a
Yes, I
trade.
saw that. That was hilarious. I saw a tweet after that. It was like, "This is the worst player to ever be able to
Yeah,
seek a
right.
trade." Yeah.
Historic.
The so I don't know where Trey Hendrickson goes. I mean, he could go to a number of different teams that could use him right now and compete for a championship.
Mhm.
Then it's funny the Ravens, both these big time pass rushers are leaving the AFC or wanting to leave the AFC North, and the Ravens are not going to be in business with them because I'm guessing they don't want to deal them
No, it
within the
can't be.
division. Yeah, so it's a damn shame if you're a Ravens fan. Miles Garrett and Trey Hendrickson want to
Well,
get
but
into the leagues.
the bright side of that is you don't have to play him twice a year.
That's true.
So
That is true.
Trey Hendricks, I think he lead the league in sacks last year.
Yeah, he did. I don't. What do the Bengals do if they don't have him? They just win every game,
I
45
don't
to
know.
42.
I
Like
don't know. Like,
they?
how are you gonna make that defense worse?
Yeah, you take the best player
Maybe
on the
they're just
team.
trying to extend T. Higgins.
They're just trying to make him not a Patriot. I just want to make T Higgins not a Patriot. They're gonna lose every game, and they're gonna never make the playoffs. But they're gonna pay 30 million on T Higgins.
Their fantasy offense is gonna be disgusting.
Oh yeah, yep.
That's
Joe,
for
yeah,
sure.
Joe Burrow is like what #1 quarterback. Jamar Chase #1 receiver.
Yep.
So good. Yeah, the Bengals. They're a star. Like it's starting to get embarrassing. Like this is embarrassing. This is
I don't
bad.
get it.
I don't
Get
get
it.
it either. And then the Jaguars. Other news of the day: Jaguars kind of cut ties with a lot of people. They traded Christian Kirk to the Texans. Uh, so on the offseason checklist, by the way, reliable number
Yep.
receiver number
You know,
two, check off. Um, so that was a great move for the Texans. They have to keep his contract, but I think it's like the final year or close to his deal. He signed a 4 year, I think 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. Um, so they're not paying too much money. He was if you remember, he set the record for wide receiver contract with his Jaguars contract, did he not? It was something crazy like that.
it was a big
It
contract.
was an
Yeah.
insane contract at the time. So I like this move. I think he was injured last year. A good reliable wide receiver for Texans once he comes back. But on the Jaguars side, since we mentioned them, this is kind of like they got a young GM, they got a young coach. It's they People were making noise about this is like some of the youngest front office in the league. This is what they do. I mean, they're cutting these players that are just they don't. It's kind of like Madden. You get a new team, you get a new roster, you just want to
Yep.
make it your own.
Clear house.
So yeah, so they're clearing house. I know they lost a bunch of money in the Evan Ingram uh, release. So like it's not about like the cap space or anything. I think they just want their players in there.
Fresh bodies. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I think that covers all the news that has happened in the NFL between the last 3 days. It's starting to heat up. Starting to get crazy.
It is starting to heat up.
We're
And
uh,
it's
we're
really
finishing
gonna
this
heat
series.
up in
Yeah, we're
3 days.
yeah. I was gonna say we're finishing the series at the right time. We're gonna get right into it. We're starting with the AFC West, and we're gonna start with the Denver Broncos. Chris, go with your first one.
So a lot of different ways the Broncos could go here. I think it's mainly on offense. This was a defense that was pretty strong last year, kind of carried them in certain games to get them into the playoffs. And in year two, Bo Nix, I think they're looking for the more explosive playmakers. I have someone who's not necessarily explosive, but would definitely be a help to their offense, and that's Najee Harris because I think they just need like a bruiser who they can bank on to kind of like do that the dirty work almost.
Yeah,
And then I also have been drafting a running back at some point in the draft, so you kind of get that short yardage back with Najee Harris, and then you get somebody who's a little bit more explosive, bit of a home run hitter at some point in the draft. So you have kind of a almost like a budget Montgomery Gibbs situation.
I like that a lot actually, and I think people will like wince at the Najee Harris mention. People like that name has just
Yes,
kind of been tarnished, even though he's a solid
he's
running back.
expectations, victim of expectations.
Yes, and he's a solid running back. He's always had, it's funny. He's never had a 35-yard carry or rush, which is crazy because he's always had 1,000 yards in every season that he's played. He's, but the issue I think for the Steelers was that he was the workload. He was the offense. He was what was getting the gears turning for the Steelers. And
Mhm.
when he's on the Broncos, he takes a he takes a goal line back roll here on the Broncos where they don't even need him until the red zone. And if you have Najee
Right.
Harris on your team and you have better running backs, that's the best place to use him. So I think if they could get all the way down the field with the running backs they already have, and their issue was in the red zone, Javonte Williams isn't that big. So you get Najee Harris in there, you can just run him down the middle 3 times in the
Yep.
in the end zone. Um, I like that a lot. I think they do need to draft a running back. I had that in my notes as well. I thought they could go bold. A wide receiver is now on the trading market. We'll talk about this team later. The Seattle Seahawks. DK Metcalf has requested a trade, and I think adding him to the Broncos, him, Cortland Sutton, Bo Nix, adds a new element to Bo Nix. Try to get him a deep ball, another deep ball threat with Cortland Sutton. Um, it would, I think, it adds an element to what you want Bo Nix to develop into, which is a deep ball passer. And if you just get some guy that the corners have to worry about. You can get Cortland Sutton open. You can get those rollouts open with the tight ends. Um, Even if he's not the most productive wide receiver on the Broncos, he would be a great um, number one to their addition of wide receiver core.
Yeah, it would completely change their offense. Getting a guy like DK in the building. I actually have him going to a different team in this division. But yeah, I feel like when I think about the Broncos, I feel like they haven't had a legit explosive threat since probably like Demaryius Thomas.
Yeah,
So it's been a long time since we've seen like Cortland Sutton is a great player and like very reliable receiver. Um, they're kind of just missing that second piece in the offense. And I think yeah, DK would fit that role perfectly. They also they don't have too many needs to the point where they can probably surrender some draft capital. I didn't do
who would have
enough
thought?
research and look at what picks they have, but yeah, seriously.
Who would have thought? Yeah, I
But
mean,
yeah,
they when
so
you look at their
I think
defense.
it makes total sense if they do want to make a splash, like that's the move.
Yeah, and as you said, I mean, we thought there was a ton of holes on this team coming into last year. Sean Payton really beefed up this young defense. There's a lot of guys on this team that a lot of people didn't hear of until this season.
The
Um,
anonymous crush.
yeah, and I think the Broncos defenders at one point in the season, three of them were like top five for defensive player of the year, which is pretty crazy to think
Crazy.
of. And it was because it was a light defensive player of the year season, but still,
Hmm.
they had a monster defense. And
Yeah.
I think adding to this offense is what the key is, and trying to raise that Bo Nix ceiling that I don't think is there personally would be my number one strength. And they clearly think it's there. Sean Payton is we laughed about it, but he clearly loves Bo Nix. He clearly proved us wrong by making it in the playoffs the first year with him. Um, and they sense that he can take this next level up. So give him that wide receiver that you can pay now. You don't have to pay no Bo Nix right now. Um,
Yep.
and worry about the contract stuff later.
Yep. Totally agree.
The Chiefs, one of the most interesting offseason teams, I think, because they're kind of strained on the cap. It's funny, the cap recently, because of all the moves that have been happening, have been I've been seeing different cap numbers from different teams, so I don't really know what
I
to trust.
know.
But if they're
It's
in the
hard to get
negative,
accurate information.
from what I've seen, they're in the negative still. Anywhere from 3 million to half a million in the negative. So I think the biggest we both have restructures as our move. I took Travis Kelsey because of his poor performance. He should take a pay cut in the Super Bowl, or poor performance in the Super Bowl. He should take a pay cut next year. Um, I saw a thing, if they cut him, they save 17 million. They're not going to cut him, uh, but they definitely need to restructure
Is that
him
allowed in
and
the
try to get.
restructure to just like take money off the contract?
I don't know how it worked. We got to get the cap guy in here. I don't know how the restructure
'Cause I
works.
see when I hit restructure, I see zero, like zero savings.
If you restructure Kelsey,
Yeah.
oh well, that's a shame. How does that? So what did you look up? What did you just look up restructuring Kelsey? What does it do?
I'm on overthecap.com and you can click like cut trade restructure.
I just googled. Can the
I don't know how it works. All my restructure information comes from this site.
Oh, is this? Don't tell me this is a couple years ago. No, no, no. This is this year. Okay. Um. Oh, this is for Mahomes. Uh-oh. Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. Okay, then I'll just switch it. We'll have the same one. Sorry, fans. Restructure Mahomes. If
You can save 38 million by
yeah,
restructuring Mahomes.
yeah, it's a pretty good deal if you can restructure Mahomes. That's both of our picks now. Thank you, Chris, fact checking. That's what we're here to do. Um, but restructuring these players on the team and figuring out the cheapest possible like not the cheapest possible roster, but the cheapest way that they can retain players on their team is a priority. They have Nick Bolton leaving into free
Yes,
agency. They just traded Joe Tooney, who was their starting right tackle or left tackle actually in the Super Bowl. So they need a new left tackle.
but starting guard before that.
And yeah, he was a starting guard before that. They are franchise tagging Trey Smith to keep him on the books. So maybe they can work on an extension after that to try to free up some of that cap hit for this year. But I don't know if they can extend him pat. It's like something in the middle of the offseason. You can't extend that, but they'd have to do that quickly, basically. That's what I'm saying. Um, they have a lot of stuff to do, and they need like players like Nick Bolton to come back on this team and to be that dominant defense that carry them to the Super Bowl this year, and will carry them through the regular season, and then um, their offense, kind of stepped up in the playoffs till the Super Bowl. But they need to add weapons. They need to add like they need to find a way to get like Cooper Cup and find a way to get some of these savvy
Yeah.
veterans, and they need to do it all under the cap. I know this isn't if you're a Chiefs fan, like we're not giving you much, but it's not much you could do.
Yeah, I mean, you also like you bank on the offensive line being healthy next year. You make a Super Bowl run, but you think at some point they need another weapon on offense.
I know, but like, don't you think the best pick at 32 or 31 is probably a tackle?
Probably.
So it's like tough to like they have yeah, it's tough because they have Xavier Worthy. He's the explosiveness.
Yeah.
They don't have a running back that's really explosive. They don't have a tight end that's very explosive anymore. Um, and I think they need to draft those things too. Like they need to draft another wide receiver. They need to draft a running back.
Mhm.
Um, they always find these guys. They'll find a way to get some fast guy on the team that
Yeah.
some guys will fall in the draft or something. And
But I feel like they need someone who is like actually a talented receiver, not just the fast guy. Not that Xavier Worthy isn't, but like
I
some
know
of
what
the
you're
guys
saying.
they brought
Yeah, no, I completely
in the
agree.
past.
But it's funny, like there's not that unless it's trades this season, there's not that free agent wide
No,
receiver
there's not.
that's out there. So it's really gonna be tough for them to, I think, to on paper to be able to compete with the other teams. I think come
Mhm.
football time, like they're gonna be right there with everyone else. But we're gonna be looking at
Yeah,
this
no,
Chiefs team
so
as the weakest Chiefs team in 3, 4 years, maybe even 5, unless they do something
probably.
drastic.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I could also see them signing like a Darius Slayton or somebody like that. And all of a sudden, I wouldn't be
Yeah,
shocked if Mark Cooper ends up there either.
yeah, I can see
That
that.
kind of seems like a good fit.
Darius Slay. I mean, if he wants
Mid.
to, actually, I feel like Darius Slay because he got cut from the Eagles. I was thinking, help out the defensive side, not really an offensive explosive weapon, but could
Okay.
help out the Chiefs. Um,
Yeah.
that would be a good little revenge. Not revenge. I guess it would be like a what would you call that? I don't know. It's be weird. I guess it would be.
Uh,
Yeah,
beat him from the other side.
yeah. I guess so.
Chris Long did.
Yeah, yeah. All right. I think we could go past the Chiefs. I mean, nobody wants to hear the Chiefs get better, anyways. Oh wait, we got
Sorry,
Danny
man.
Kertner here. He's a Chiefs fan. Rasheed Weiss coming back. Sign Hollywood. Draft tight end last year. He's got hurt. He's
Hollywood
coming
did
back.
nothing though.
Hollywood
That was
didn't
who I
do
was thinking
anything.
of.
Yeah, Hollywood didn't do anything. That's a great point. They didn't really target him in the Super Bowl either, which I thought was like
No,
we
not
didn't
at
see
all.
much of him at all. Maybe I mean he was hurt most of the season. Could have been
Yeah.
come back next year, rehab next year. I think that Rasheed Rice is something we definitely forgot about. Um, I think a lot of people have forgotten about Rasheed Rice.
Mhm.
He was a pretty reliable receiver for Mahomes when he was out there. Um,
Yeah.
he did say
What's the
tackle
trade
class
for Tyreek
weak
Hill?
that we go yeah, he was hurt until week 18. Yeah, no, I agree with Danny. So who would you want at 31 then, Danny? While we're talking about it, complex system
Any
takes me
chance
here.
that happens?
Love that. Love that.
What
I
is it?
love that I said complex system takes a year to learn it. Love it. Um, all right, we'll see what he says. We'll go to the Raiders though. Uh, I had a thing that they shouldn't do. Should I go with that first, or should we do?
Go for it. Yeah, it's the elephant in the room.
They should not sign Sam Darnold to a multi-year contract. It
No, I
seems like this is gonna be like it seems like this is a Tom Brady move that like he wants the guy that like it seems like the best quarterback in free agency. I don't know. It's Pete Carroll's there. It seems like they're gearing up to spend a lot of money on Sam Darnold,
yeah yeah.
and it just doesn't
I don't
seem
know how
like the
you can
best.
get excited for that.
No, I don't know how
Like
you
Sam
get excited
Darnold
for that.
without Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and T.J. Hawkinson, and Kevin O'Connell. Like you're going from those guys to Chip Kelly and Pete Carroll and Brock Bowers, I guess, is
Yeah,
your saving grace.
yeah.
It's
You have
not a
Brock.
great
That's about
landing
it.
spot. Who are the receivers? Jacoby Myers.
Trey Tucker. Um. Uh. That's about it.
What if they sign Donald and trade for Metcalf? And what?
Um.
I would not support that. Just throwing it out there as a possibility because DK is really fast, and that's like one of the Raiders' favorite things to do.
Yeah, big and fast. God, the Raiders love big and
Yes.
fast guys. They can't do this though. They can't waste like they will put themselves in a purgatory that they've been in for the past couple years for just it longer. They'll just extend it longer. And if you ask me what they should do at quarterback, I think they should trade up for Shadur and just be full circus. They already got Tom Brady. They already got all the old heads coaching. Just Shadur, Dion's on First Take every week saying that they need all linemen or something. Like it just bring the whole circus to Vegas. I think he works in Vegas. Um,
Yeah.
and I know I said I didn't want the limelight on him in a big city like New York, but like Shadur doing the stupid
Vegas
thing in
different.
Vegas, like he just it seems like he would thrive in Vegas. And
Yeah.
I think the Dion brand would come with it. There'd be a lot of merch with it. They'd be able to sell tickets. Like that's the other thing. Like you saying sign Sam Darnold, are you really selling tickets to people in Vegas?
It's NFL team in Vegas.
Well, yeah, they're always gonna sell
Might
tickets.
not be Raider fans buying the tickets, but
Yeah, but like
they
you're gonna
will sell.
post a giant, you know, poster right next to Vegas, like right next to the strip of Sam Darnold holding a
Yeah.
football. Like the Shadur deserves to be in Vegas, and like
Yeah, no, I it's way sexier for
yeah, oh yeah.
sure.
Just imagine on the strip, you just have the watch be like Shadur, like whatever his brand is, be posted all over the city.
Dion's face on the
Oh
sphere.
yeah, yeah, exactly. He comes like and he coaches on Saturdays, comes on Sunday every game. Like he just flies in, lights the torch that's in that stadium, the fake torch. Good to go.
Yeah. I don't hate it. It was honestly something I considered with my move. I just worry about giving up like a ton of assets straight up for a guy who's not like a bona fide prospect. But I wouldn't hate it if I was a Raiders fan. They need to do something.
And I just think that's something it can't be Darnold. Like that's
No,
something that
right. Something I mean like something that's exciting.
yeah.
Like Darnold's the least exciting quarterback in the market since last offseason with Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, pretty much. It's funny. It's been a brutal run for it's like we had this really good draft class in quarterbacks this year or last year, I guess. And and it got a lot of teams quarterbacks for the next 2 or 3 years until we see them come bad. But like this last draft stunk. The Kenny Pickett draft stunk. The Anthony Richardson draft is turning out to be kind of poopy. Um,
Who was 1 and 2 in that draft?
oh crap. Um, Here we go. What do we got?
I don't think of all the teams right now.
What draft was this? It's like 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Levis was in that draft.
Yes, Levis was in that
Who
draft.
else got a
Who went
quarterback?
one? Who went 1 and 2?
Richardson went 3, or did he go 4?
He went 4. It must have been 2023. This is great podcasting, by the way.
That's great. I can't believe we can't come up.
Bryce Young, CJ Stroud. Okay, that's all
Oh,
right.
and
That's
Stroud.
okay.
Okay.
That we still have time
I
on
was gonna
those.
get there eventually. I was thinking through like every team.
Yeah,
My
we
bad.
we got there eventually. But and I guess we got to give more time too. But just some of these drafts seems like the quarterback and the free agent markets, it's like the quarterbacks are running thin. It feels like.
Well, there's never quarterbacks on the free agent market because teams that have good quarterbacks just re-sign them. Like quarterbacks don't
Yeah, they don't hit the free.
test
Yeah,
free
that's
agency.
true. That's a good point.
The good
That's a
ones
good
don't,
point.
at least.
All right, what were we talking about? The Raiders. Yeah. All right, what was your move?
I had a pretty boring one, which is just to re-sign Trevon Merrick, who's one of the better safeties in the NFL. I just think it seemed like this, like, they have good talent in the building already. Let's not let them leave. Like, we're trying to start building something, might as well keep around the best players that we have. So they already did it with Crosby. I think Merrick makes sense. So, you know.
I like that because you're right. You want to keep some of the some of the good draft picks that you actually had during the past like
Right, yeah.
5 years of crappy
Like, let's
regimes.
not make it harder to rebuild.
Yeah, I agree. So try to keep the good players on your team that you've had for a number of years now. So I like that.
Right.
The Chargers. We're gonna move on to the Chargers. Before we move on to the Chargers, update on from Danny. He said they should take a defensive player. The Chiefs.
Got it.
Um, all right, Chargers. We both have them trading for a big time wide receiver.
Yep.
Um, I guess before we get into each specific one, the bottom line is you want to maximize what you have with Herbert. You got him to the playoffs this year. Another bad playoff performance. Um, a lot of bad drops from the wide receivers during the year. They finally have Lad McConkey being the number one wide receiver. He's probably better as a number two wide receiver if you get an elite
Mhm.
guy uh, like who we've both picked. I have Tyreek Hill that they should trade for just because Tyreek Hill requested a trade at the end of the offseason from the Miami Dolphins. They have the cap space to take up his contract. I don't think they would have to. This would be a good move for both teams because, you know, Tyreek wants to win. The Chargers want to win. Um, it's not the Jim Harbaugh run it down your throat type of guy, but especially if you want to prove that Herbert is better than Tua and prove all these Herbert stats, let's get him the guy that Tua's been throwing to and been underthrowing the past like 4 years. So let's see if Herbert can throw him some good balls.
Yeah, I think it would be awesome. I honestly kind of forgot about Tyreek Hill because we haven't really heard.
Mm-hmm.
It's like all the guys are requesting trades now, whereas he requested a trade a while ago.
Yeah,
But yeah, obviously that's a great fit. I had DK, which like again, vertical threat. I Tyreek's better than DK, but you're still getting that explosiveness that this offense hasn't. There's another one where like this offense hasn't had a guy like that in a while. Like you have Keenan Allen, who's was one of the most underrated receivers in the league, I think. But he was a reliable guy, like crafty route runner, not necessarily explosive. Closest thing they had to was Mike Williams. He was on the
yeah,
field for 30% of games and hits you with 2 or 3 deep balls a game. I think that completely unlocks another level of Herbert. And yeah, that's like at that point, it's no excuses.
yeah.
Got a good line, got excellent receive.
Got
Like
your
that takes you
coach.
from having below average receivers to like all of a sudden excellent.
Oh yeah,
Um, have a run game. So yeah, no more excuses. The only other thing with Chargers you could consider here, like they're gonna need a replacement at edge because Bose is gone. And Bose wasn't on the field that much anyway, but he's gone. Khalil Mack's gone, so they need somebody to fill that role.
yeah. I would think they would need to. They would definitely need to either try to re-sign Khalil Mack or try to get a replacement in the draft there. I think, especially with there's probably some Michigan guy that Harbaugh's like scouting out. That's like, oh, that guy was good. And probably could
Probably.
replace him. Yeah. But that's always benefit of the doubt. We're always given like that. They can always find a replacement. It's always given benefit of the doubt. They're losing two good edge rushers that might have not been on the field too much for them last year, but have been impactful in prior years. Um,
Yeah.
Chris, you didn't mention who you said to trade for, which was DK Metcalf.
Okay, yeah,
Oh, did you mention that in the spiel? I
yeah,
just didn't. I
I did.
didn't. My
Yeah.
bad. Um, but yeah, for everything that we both just mentioned, you get no excuses when you get either of these guys. You get a deep ball threat, um, and something that Herbert hasn't had reliably since his whole career. So,
Yeah.
all right, let's go to the NFC West, final division of our offseason preview, and we're gonna start with the Arizona Cardinals. And oh, I gotta sneeze for a second, but it's not coming out. All right, so
Worse.
I I'm going. They should bring a homecoming. Bring home Hassan Reddick from the Jets. His Jets time was hairy. You know, he had his contract extension, sat out for half the season. Did he ever end up? I feel like he ended up playing, and then you never really heard of him again. Um, his
Yeah, he
best
played a
ye-
couple games eventually.
his
Most of
best
it.
seasons were on the Cardinals before he went to the Eagles, and I think the Cardinals need some defensive help. I feel like this guy could be pretty cheap for them, coming in 30 years old. Um, could help solidify that defense to something a little more um, just a little more defensive. I don't know, something better than like what they have.
Formidable.
Yeah, formidable. Thank you. That's a good word.
Yeah, I ended up going the same route and signing another former Eagle, Milton Williams, the D tackle spot. I originally had Khalil Mack here. I just was a little bit turned off by the age. But yeah, like this, when you look at the Cardinals' offseason needs, the number one screaming need is pass rush help. Um, so definitely don't hate the Hassan Reddick move. Don't hate any way that they can bring in help on the edge. Like if they were to sign one of these guys and draft in the first round, I think that would make a lot of sense. They kind of tried last offseason or last regular season trading for Baron Browning. Didn't really
Yeah,
go
that
the
didn't
way
work
they
out very well.
expected it to, I guess. So kind of a sunk cost there. They desperately need help up front. I mean, defensively as a whole, like you said, they've struggled for many years now. It feels that's like the glaring issue though, is there is no pass rush for this roster.
Yeah, the other teams that face against him have all the time in the world. They pick him apart defensively, no matter who their cornerbacks are or their linebackers. I love the Milton Williams idea. I think grabbing any guys from this defensive line from the Eagles would be a great addition. I saw when I was looking up research for it, it was all like they could get Josh Sweat, they could get Milton Williams, they can get all the free agents from the Eagles. And I was like, I think and any team should be looking to do that. And it's with a
Yeah,
team that needs defensive help as much as they do. Um, I think that would be great. I think if they did both of these, I mean, even better. The more the merrier. They have the cap space to do it. The only other
they
move that
could.
I
Yeah,
had written
they do have
down
a
for
lot of
them,
cap space.
the only other move I had written down for them was to draft or sign a wide receiver two for Marvin Harrison for Trey McBride. Just because Kyler, we saw it last season multiple times where Marvin Harrison might have been wide open down the field, but Kyler Murray just couldn't see him. Um, and as funny as that is, that happens to a lot of quarterbacks too. Um, but if you can get a guy over the middle who's wide open, um, you can have more options that Kyler Murray can see, uh, that are open. And I think they've
I
been
like to
looking
go in the
for.
back for Kyler a little bit. Saying it happens to a lot of quarterbacks.
Yeah, tried to give him a little pat on the back. I tried to hype him up a little bit.
Pat on the head.
Yeah, but um, there's a number of different vets that they could sign for that. And on the defensive side, I had DJ Reed from the Jets, they could sign.
Mhm.
Ernest Jones from the Seahawks, they could sign. Really anything on the defense could help them out. And that number two wide receiver, I did say they could go after Amari Cooper if he's super cheap. Would be a great
Yeah, I wouldn't hate
wide
that.
receiver. Yeah. All right. The Rams. This team, I didn't know what to do with the Rams.
No, this is a weird team because they've already been so active too.
Yeah.
So like they've re-signed a Lark Jackson.
Yep.
They've traded Jonah
Jonah
Jackson.
Jackson.
They've announced that they're going to trade Cooper Cup, but they haven't. They might
So
end up
weird.
cutting him.
Dumbest thing in the whole
And they
offseason so
extended
far.
Stafford
Yeah.
after all of the rumors that he might be gone. So you end up with this team who actually has a decent amount of cap space.
Yeah, and he's
when you
actually
look at the
pretty good.
roster, which is not what I expected at all.
No, because they have their
So
defense
yeah,
is
I
so
think
young.
they're
Defense
yeah,
is
it is young,
insanely young.
but they're kind of in a decent spot here.
They're in a great spot. And I think what is weird though is they're kind of fiddling if this whole Stafford thing was kind of fiddling like do we want to compete or do we want to just blow it up? And after the Stafford thing was signed, they re-signed Jackson, the tackle Jackson, not the guard Jackson.
Yeah,
Um, so I think that's just like, hey, we are going to try to win. We're going to cut this guard money in
yeah.
Jonah Jackson. We're going to use that to fill out other positions. Um, and I think they need some more explosiveness on the offense. And I think they should try. Like one of my things that I wrote down is they should try to apologize to Cooper Cup and just be like, hey, you should come back and play for us again. Um, but they should draft a running back because I just didn't think Kyron Williams really was that explosive that last year. I really didn't think he was that good. And this running back class is so loaded. They could get a running back in the
Mhm.
third that could be their starting running back and be explosive. Um, so I really like them drafting a running back, not even early, just somewhere in the draft because it's so deep and using that and but drafting him with the purpose of being the number one guy going forward. And
You don't believe in Kyron like long term?
I don't believe in him. Maybe that's I just think he's kind of slow and just not that. He's not that. Not he doesn't do it
Interesting.
for me. He doesn't have the juice. You know, he doesn't have the juice for me.
I wouldn't
Uh,
hate if they drafted a running back, but it would have to be late
I'm
because
thinking
like
third
you already have
round.
a belt. No, it's got to be like sixth or seventh.
You think yeah, I guess they did use Kyron as like a bell
Thirteen
back, but
hundred
like
yards last year.
that's true. That's a good point. I got it.
I know. There's too many other options I think for this team to address to have because like as far as the needs go, I understand wanting a more explosive player, but it's also not one of their glaring needs.
I could see that, and and he had a better postseason than I imagined that he had. Um, I just felt like he disappeared in that grand scheme of the offense. You know, everything's flying around, everything's explosive, and he just kind of disappears. And I guess that really isn't the worst thing for a running back. You kind of you wouldn't mind him disappearing every once in a while. Um, so you're right. I think I should take a step back on that Kyron um, hate in that sense. But I do want them to get someone that is very explosive to just help out Matt, like someone young, you know, and help out Matthew Stafford, um, carry them past the Eagles in the playoffs eventually.
Mhm. Yeah,
Uh,
no, I get that, and I mine is not somebody young, uh, but I do have their Cooper Cup replacement, which is Devonte Adams,
okay,
uh, and I don't love it because it comes with the caveat of you might not be able to get Devonte Adams if he's just going to follow Aaron Rodgers wherever he goes. If that's not the case, I think this makes sense because you're moving on from one old receiver and replacing him with another old receiver who's better and who hasn't had injury issues. So it's like I would assume it's at a similar number too. So I think it objectively makes their offense better. And you're going to have to replace Cooper Cup one way or another. The other area that I thought that they could go in free agency is corner if they want to sign a DJ Reed or a Tavares Ward or somebody like that. Maybe even like a
stealing
Kendall Fuller,
stealing
just like
Ward
a
from
vet who's
the 49ers would
decent.
be nice.
Yeah. Um, so I don't know how strong the corner draft class is in the first round. So that might be something that they're looking for later. But I've only really heard Will Johnson as a guy who's projected to go first
Nothing,
round. He's probably
nothing
gone
about.
by their pick anyway. So I think that's a position to address in free agency. But I like they're in a good spot.
Yeah, they do have a lot.
Surprising.
They have a lot they can do. Um, I think the issue with Cup is, which is why I want them to apologize and bring it back, because the Cup just so much. He's so unique with the way he plays where
Mm,
there's not a lot of wide receivers you can compare him to because you can put him on the outside and he can do outside routes and do deep routes and go down the field. And then he's best in the middle. He's best in the middle of the field. But you can still you're still like I feel like Cooper Kupp, you got to line him out on the outside still, even when he does all of his middle stuff. Like he's just he's a special type of different wide receiver, and I think him and Matthew Stafford have such a strong connection. I mean, they had what
Mhm.
FaceTime they had FaceTime breakfasts every morning over the
Yep.
season. So I think coming in with Devontae Adams, you change up how that offense works, but I do believe if you're getting rid of Cooper Cup, using that money, using maybe I mean, you're giving Cooper Cup. I think he's. Do you know how much money he makes?
Over 20 million.
So you're probably going to get Adams for about 12. So maybe you save some money there. And he's a
Really,
different
you
type.
think it'd be that cheap?
Adams will be that. What do you think? He's going to
Yeah.
be like 15? I mean, I guess Odell
20.
warranted like 18 that random year for the Ravens.
He's better than Odette. Like
No, I know. He's far better than
he
Odell.
had
I
over
agree.
1,000 yards and a lot of touchdowns last year.
I agree. No, I agree. I
It's
thought
durable too.
I guess I didn't realize the market of it. Um, but
Million up.
you change up your offense, but as you said, he is a better player. You have more of an outside threat with Puka Nakua, so you have two outside threats. And then maybe you can draft. Sean McVay always loves a guy. Maybe you can draft a guy that
Yeah.
goes over the middle. Um, so I don't hate that at all, and I think that would be a good idea if Adams doesn't follow Rodgers to wherever he goes.
Yes, that's the issue.
Wow. Okay, let me pause. Pause. Time out. What What if Rodgers goes to the Raiders and does Adams come back to the Raiders?
I don't know.
I feel like that. I feel like that's not a bad idea. If you're already coming with all the old heads, might as like if you're not gonna get Shadur, I don't think that's a bad
Gosh,
idea. You just come in with this old head
you think
city.
Brady would want him?
That's the other thing. I don't know. Hey, but like, do you think him and Brady have a relationship, or do you think like
I don't know.
I feel like Rodgers doesn't have a relationship with anyone. Rodgers doesn't
Yeah,
even
that's
have a
the
relationship
thing.
with his
Except Pat
family.
McAfee and Devontae Adams
Yeah, yeah, Adam. Yeah, that's.
and Randall Cobb.
Yep. Yep. I think they should both go to the Giants. I still think they should both. It would just be so funny. It's like
Fine with me.
it's just Dayball just not gonna lose my job. Or I'm gonna lose my job
Yep.
anyways, basically.
Yeah.
Um all right, let's go to the Niners. Enough for that fantasy. The Niners, I think, are pretty simple. Sit down to Brock Purdy and you go, you really want to make this much money? You go, Brock, you I know this money is life changing, but like, can you slim down 20 mil so we can try to keep you competitive? Because the second we pay you this much money, we're screwed. So
Yeah.
you
Well, it's
just
already started.
yeah,
It's like
yeah,
they already had to do Ayuk, and like they've already had to move on from Debo. They've got Fred Warner's contract. They've got Bosa's contract. They've got Trent Williams. Like this team has suffered because they're so talented, and they've chosen to pay all of these guys. Like if they pay Purdy, then this roster's gonna be depleted. Like you're right. It's
it's
all these
Cowboys
guys are gonna have to
situation.
go.
It's Cowboys situation.
Yeah.
It's and you really like as Purdy, he seems like a nice kid, seems like a smart kid. He's been grinding under this 900K salary that he's had. Or contract, honestly, not even
As a
salary.
roommate.
Yeah, he's had a roommate. He had to give his Christmas gift to his O-line had to be a sponsorship because he has no money. Um, but you got to sit him down and be like, "Look, we can give you this contract and we could suck, or we can give you this contract and we can re-sign this guy, this guy, this guy."
Yeah. I
And
mean, even if he's getting like 30 million a year,
exactly, it's like, can you do
like
35?
it's not 55.
Yeah, yeah. Can you chill with 35? Can that be your cap number?
Yeah.
Um, and they because they can't upgrade the roster with a giant Brock Purdy extension without drafting perfectly. Um,
Yep.
and the only other move, if they have enough money, they should try to get pair of the brothers. I mean, get Joey Bosa here.
Yeah, I like that. Um, I was looking at their roster and it's complicated.
Oh, it's complicated.
They're in a complicated spot
Yeah,
uh, because their window is open. Like last year is not indicative of how talented this team is.
correct.
They're picking at 10, which is not normal for a team that has that much talent.
Yeah,
Um, but they're also getting old. So like you look at the defensive side of the ball, and like you're already losing Travers Ward, you're losing Greenlaw. Like you have Warner and Bosa, those are your cornerstones, but you just cut Hargrave, and then you have like Leonard Floyd, who's old. You have Trent Williams, who's old. You have your offensive line is not in great shape. So I almost what I would like them to do, honestly, is to trade down from 10 and try to acquire some more like second round picks and just kind of try to build up the roster, preparing for
I like that.
the Purdy extension and to not be able to rely on some of the aging vets and some of the guys that they're not going to be able to pay. I just don't know what the market is going to look like in terms of trading up to that spot.
Yeah, who the hell
And it
wants
seems like
10?
there's always someone to willing to trade up. Like there's someone on somebody's draft board that they felt was not going to be there at 10 and now they want to pounce. But it's not like there's going to be a quarterback there, unless someone wants like Jackson Dart or
I saw
I saw Jackson Dart go third
three.
in a mock draft
Oh,
today, and I
I'm
was like,
glad
"Are you
I'm glad you
kidding
paused
me?"
too, because I
I would
the second you
be
said that
like
name, that's
running
all
around
I
my
thought about.
apartment
Yeah.
cheering if the Giants took him at 3. Uh, but yeah, so him or like Jaden Milrow, I've seen him go in the first round too. I'm like, what are we doing here? But that's more than likely not going to happen. So that's the only problem. That's why I didn't go with that. I had them taking an edge rusher, which I had in our spreadsheet. I had listed above a couple guys that we already talked about last episode. Um, Georgia guys and Mike Green. Um,
Kennard area.
they
I
might,
like Kennard going there.
yeah, they might have their pick of the litter
Oh wait, they're at
at
10.
10.
Never mind. It's way early
So
for
yeah,
Kennard.
no, they're early.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think that makes sense for them to get somebody to pair with Bosa, because I don't know how much longer you can rely on Leonard Floyd. Although it kind of feels like he'll never retire, but he's just going to keep bouncing around team to team. So I think that or O line makes the most sense early in the draft if they're not going to trade down. But the Purdy thing is important. Like how they navigate that situation is very important because they have to resign him.
Yeah, and
Like,
he
what are you gonna do if you
deservingly
don't?
he deserves it. And you're right. What do
Right,
they
yeah.
do if they
You
don't?
just can't give him like you can't do what the Jags and the Dolphins did
Yeah, just give him everything.
or the Cowboys.
Yeah.
It was
Well,
like,
and it's
look at the Cowboys.
yeah. Well, and it's funny, like the other two guys that you just mentioned, the Jags, um, they like Trevor Lawrence had his pedigree with him too. So like he was the number one pick. You got to give him like the max. Like he's not going to demand anything lower. He was the number one pick. Uh, Dak Prescott is not going to demand anything lower because he is playing for the Dallas Cowboys. Brock Purdy, you can have like leverage over him. Be like, hey, we
Bully
made you
him.
this. Yeah, like we made you this. Like what? I don't know. And I guess it's not a good way to negotiate. Like you want to be friendly to your players, but
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I would seriously have it like if his agent comes in and is like, here's $80 million we want, I would look at him straight in the face and be like, good luck playing somewhere else because we're not paying you
yeah.
that much. Because we'll just find another Brock Purdy to do it.
Mhm.
Um, and they have the coach, they have the pedigree, they have the coaching staff to do that again. Honestly, like if they're starting some random guy, we're just gonna trust the Niners are gonna be like, all right, they're gonna probably be decent.
Yeah, if they did it like they had a year where they had to start up Mullins. Like it
Yep.
can't just be anybody.
Yeah, that's
There
true.
is a
But
line
if
where
yeah,
they can't
but if
just
they
work
draft
in the
someone
Niners
this
system.
year,
Like, are they going to bring in Daniel Jones? That was
maybe.
always the thing with Daniel Jones. It's like the Niners would make Daniel Jones good.
Yeah, let's bring him. Yeah, why
Are we
not?
going to put that to the test?
Yes. That's what I would say. I'd be like, we're gonna sign Daniel Jones for $1.5 million. That's what we're gonna do instead. Um.
Daniel Jones is going to get like 12 million bucks.
Oh, I know. Yeah, those backup quarterbacks. He's gonna make
To
like
get
yeah.
paid. It's stupid.
While
But
we're talking about that again, Ethan fact checked us. The the projection for Adams is 20 to 25 million. He said the projection for
okay.
Purdy is 59 million a year. Yeah, I would be like, no chance, pal. You cap out at 36. 36 million a year. That's what you cap out at.
59 is absurd.
Yeah, that's way too much money.
That
Um,
is outrageous.
so we're gonna move on to the Seattle Seahawks, the last team in our exercise here. And with the last one, I did something. I kind of threw in another team. but the Seahawks should convince the Raiders to take Geno Smith. Um, it's already like I've already heard rumors
Where are
about
the
it.
Seahawks at with Geno?
I think they like him. Like they have him on a great contract, probably the best
It's fair
quarterback
to them.
contract in the league. Um, they they're good with him when he has protection. Then you see some of these Niners games and he's throwing like he can't hit the broadside of a barn. Um, so like you need protection with him. So I like you said draft O line. You need some protection for him
Yep.
if you're gonna keep him. But I think if the Raiders are like coming to crawl for it, like hey, we'll give you a third and something else, maybe a second and something else. Like I'm taking
Why
it.
do they do that when they could just sign Darnold though? Like, how much better is Geno than Darnold?
Well, I think you
No,
save. I think if in that scenario, you probably save. I think Gino's only making like 17 million a year. You're saving a bunch of money if you
really.
do that. I might be talking out of my ass. 3 years, 75
Just
million.
fact check it.
3 years, 75 million. So what is that?
So,
That's like
okay, yeah,
25 a year.
25.
It's not.
No, but his cap number is 44. Must have
Oh, because
restructured
it was
him
yeah because
or just
his cap
backloaded
hit
it.
this year is so his
Yeah,
cap hit next
it's
year would be
tough.
38. So that would be if the Seahawks were trying to get rid of him. That would be why they would be trying to get rid of him. That's still not a
Mhm.
bad number. Like that's what we want Brock Purdy to take. You know, like that's not a bad number at all
Correct.
for your starting quarterback. Um, so I think so. Like you're right. Where are they with Gino? Do they want to keep him and can like compete, or I was just thinking like they already have a young coach. They already have an up and coming defense. I guess maybe that
If
means
you're
you should
gonna trade
stay with Gino.
Metcalf, you should.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think you
Yeah,
should move on from Geno
I
too.
agree. I agree. If you're gonna end
If
up
you're gonna
trading
nuke
Metcalf,
it, nuke it.
yeah,
Don't make the team worse and then trot out the same quarterback. Try to get make the playoffs again.
completely agree.
So I don't know. I don't know where they're at. I wouldn't do either of. I wouldn't want to get rid of either of them.
Yeah, if I'm them, I wouldn't. Yeah, but it looks like the DK thing is not on them; it's on DK that wants to get out of there.
Yeah.
The also don't want him for the Pats. Too much money. It's not gonna work out. Anyways, um, I don't know what you do. I think what they should do is keep both. If they have to trade, they trade both. And I think that's where you roll. You're like,
Yeah.
we're at the mercy of Geno Smith, or not Geno Smith. We're at the mercy of DK Metcalf for this
You just wish that you could have done it
whole
last
plan.
year. Though. Like if you're gonna restart with a new coach, don't do it in his second year.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
That's where this gets dicey.
Yeah, because you already had a successful first year with that one guy with Geno. Of course, that's what we're talking
Yeah.
about. And then and what do you do immediately? Like you sign maybe a Jackson Dart in the draft, or you get a Jared Stidham, or like what are you doing here? So yeah, oh yeah, stinky. I wonder where Zach Wilson goes. He's gonna go somewhere. He paid like $8 million somewhere.
Gonna go somewhere.
Um,
I'd take him.
I'd take Zach Wilson too. I'm not gonna lie. I
Yeah.
have like this underlying like if he gets in a game, like
You never know.
he was on the Jets, bro. He's on the Jets. If he gets in the game, I want to see him throw. Um, okay. Other things that I think, uh, but the Seahawks do need the O line if they're gonna keep
Yeah.
Geno. He needs to be protected. They could get if they get picks for if they get picks for DK Metcalf, they could either move around the draft and try to draft some higher higher tier talent on the O line, um, even some later round guys on the O line. Just try to get Geno protected if you're not trading him. And that's really all I got them to do. Like they have a young defense that's pretty good. They have some
Yep.
pass rushers that they
On the
just
rise.
drafted, so they're on the rise. They have some cornerbacks that they just drafted. Um, the thing is, like, if when Geno runs out of this contract, then what do you do? Like, I don't think you resign him
I
after
don't
this. He's
know.
going to be 35 years old. Um, it's a they're in a pickle for the most important position, but I don't think it's a problem. If that makes sense.
It's not the worst situation to be in, but they're not gonna win a Super Bowl.
Exactly, which is why they should trade the
So
Raiders.
right. With DK, just pat like
Pack them
we'll take your
together.
first and third round picks,
Yeah,
and you can have Jay and Gino.
I'm in. I think Pete's in. Get it on the call.
And they'll
Um,
trade up for Shadur.
Seahawks. Yeah, now we're talking.
Yeah. Now they
Yeah,
need a receiver though.
No, they have Jackson
Shador and a
Smith.
Seahawks before. Yeah, and then who?
That's it. They cut
They
Tyler
just cut
Lockett, by the way.
Lockett
That
too.
is news. He's gonna be a
Yeah.
Raider. Him, DK, Gino, new look Raiders. We're moving Seattle to Vegas, and we're calling them the
Yep.
Raiders. All right, that's I think that's a great way to end our offseason
Yep.
discussion about this. Um, but I hope everyone enjoyed. Hopefully, we can look back and we see a lot of green and we're gonna count, by the way, if we say Detroit should trade for Max Crosby and they get Myles Garrett. We're gonna count that. We're gonna count that.
Yes.
But it has to be on that like tier. We won't count it if it's something not on that tier.
If it's the
Uh,
same position
yeah.
and close enough.
But that does it. Thank you all for listening. And next episode, I guess we're gonna be doing free
We'll have
agent.
moves.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're gonna be doing free agent recap. So that'll be fun. Thank you all for listening. Hopefully everyone's team does exactly what they want in the off season. And it's mock draft season after that, baby. So get ready, get pumped. And then of course, NCAA t-shirt contest. So great things looking ahead. Thank you all for listening
It's
to
a
this.
bracket challenge. It's not a wet t-shirt
Yeah, that's
contest.
true.
How about when you are a t-shirt contest? The winner of the bracket challenge gets a Wise Guys t-shirt.
Yes, thank you for explaining that. That's a good but I hope you enjoyed this off season preview and see everyone